And we are live on College Band Radio, all college band, all the time. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 3. I'm Alex. We're here. Craig is here. Savannah is here. And Annabelle is here to lead off this third episode. First off, how's everyone doing?
Not too bad. Just chilling, you know.
Chilling?
Pretty okay. Getting through it. Somehow staying afloat with school stuff.
There we go.
Don't ask me how it's going, but it's going.
It do be going, that's true.
Yeah.
Annabelle, how are you doing?
I'm good, minus my football schedule changing every week. That's been a bit stressful along with midterms, but hanging in there.
You got it. So just quickly, I guess from my end, for anyone listening out there that is a Tampa Bay Rays fan like me, the Rays just won the AL pennant and are now going to their second World Series in franchise history. So I'm really excited and happy about that. And I was stressed out as anything last night watching the game. So yeah, I'm sure everyone else was, and I'm sure everyone's like that with every sport. And it'll be like that once the football season ends and college football playoff time is in. From that, I think it is best that since we've already talked a little bit about news, why don't we go into our news segment for this week? And there is a lot of interesting news to go into and to talk about, but I think the place that we should start is the fact that the Big Ten is returning. Big Ten football is back. Week 1 for the Big Ten is starting this weekend. There are a lot of great matchups that we covered in our pick segment at the end of the podcast, so you can listen to that later after our main segment. But it just general thoughts from everyone. The Big Ten's back. This is another major conference that's back now. 4 of the 5 are back. The Pac-12 will be coming back in a week or two, but are things kind of feeling a little bit more normal to you guys when you're watching these games of the weekend? And it's like, these schools are back, and things are a little bit weird, but college football is getting back to normal.
I feel like it's not very normal. It was right at the beginning, I think, when the first couple of conferences were starting to play. Mm-hmm. But, the past couple weeks, there's been postponed games, there's been switching schedules, everything kind of gets messy, right? Because these colleges are having these outbreaks. So I don't think it's anywhere remotely normal. So I'm not really sure what that's going to look like when the Big Ten comes back. Because so far it was okay from the start, and then you have these headlines with, like, Nick Saban being positive and all these head coaches being positive. So is that just going to... I wonder if that's just going to continue, when the Big Ten comes in.
That's true.
Yeah, I think it gave some sense of normalcy, but at the same time, as a Rutgers alum, I rarely normally would watch games outside of the Big Ten unless there was like a top 10 matchup or like a really big matchup that was just going to be, really, really good one, or something maybe like the Red River Showdown, just a game where every year it's exciting. But like generally I stick to BTN on Saturdays. And so I've been exposed to a lot more football than I normally get. A lot more teams that I'm not too familiar with, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, although it has been really weird to see like cardboard cutouts in some stands. That's just been so bizarre.
Yeah.
But that's the times we live in. Some places obviously they have real people in the stands. Some places they have too many people in the stands. But as we saw with Florida, you try and get too many people there, and karma's gonna bite you. So
that is true.
Yeah. For me personally, So like, especially like with Mizzou, COVID's been kind of crazy with our schedule changing every week. But I am glad that I'm not sure about like the Big Ten band situation, but I'm glad that they are getting football back. Like the SEC, we've been really thankful that we've been able to be together and band throughout the week. So I'm glad that they're getting that experience. I just hope that it's going to be safe.
I am kind of interested to hear everyone's opinion about this because, to my knowledge, I don't think that Big Ten bands will be in the stands for these games. I know that from the conferences that I've seen, the Big 12, ACC, and SEC are all having some sort of bands in the stands. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, this is the first instance where that's not where, to my knowledge, bands in the stands won't be a thing for games. Is that I mean, in the excitement of the Big Ten coming back, is that kind of a weird, unsettling thing when you're watching a game and you can't hear the band?
I think it's like, um, I've almost been, I think personally, when I'm watching the football games, I kind of, I'll just flip back and forth between any game that's really on. You know, sometimes you have a game where there's a band or fans or no fans. And I'm almost, I guess personally, I'm almost surprised to hear a band. Um, I mean, I love it that they're, I mean, hopefully doing so, you know, hopefully, like safely doing so. But um, I know for a Pac-12, no bands, not in the stands, no field or anything. And I think it's the same for Big Ten. I've found that, like, you know, they pump the noise in, the crowd noise.
Mm-hmm.
That seems for me to be pretty adequate. Like, I forget almost that there's an empty stadium.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think so with the Big Ten, there are kind of two different things that are going on with schools. So some schools are like, I know Jason has talked about this in the past. What Purdue is doing, how they're kind of pre-recording things, um, and and then on the other hand, I know schools like Rutgers, there's just kind of no band. I think they're trying to do just like kind of virtual social events to at least keep some semblance of band. But I think for the schools that are recording stuff, I wouldn't be too surprised if they record some stands tunes and pump those in. So you know your team scores a touchdown, hit the button that plays the fight song, so you still get the sound of it. Like personally, if I were kind of in charge of the game day experience, I would go up to the band director and be like, "Hey, record these 5 tunes for us, so we have something to pump in." So you know it, even though nobody's in the stands, the audience watching on TV still gets a similar experience to what they would get because that is part of the game day environment, hearing that stuff. And watching college football without hearing that band noise is gonna be weird. So hopefully they do something like that.
Yeah, same thing for me personally. I do wish that the bands could be in the stands. Just because like now as an SEC member, I do get to be in the stands. And it is really nice. And so, you know, like, I do wish that like all other band people do get that experience because, like, for my school personally, like it's very safe. Like I always feel comfortable and safe while I'm playing there. So I wish everyone were to have that. But if the conference doesn't allow it, I hope, you know, at the very least they do like the recordings of the bands and still find a way to get them featured. That way they are acknowledged as a big part of the atmosphere.
I guess for me, it is going to be nice to kind of see my alma mater play again. You know, now as an alumni, but it is going to be really weird. It's just, I mean, this year is just a weird thing in general. So it just makes sense for sports to not feel the same. I mean, it's nice that that more conferences are coming back and are playing, but it's still going to feel really weird. From the Big Ten, I want to go on to talking a little bit more about COVID. So we already talked about it a little bit, but more games are getting postponed to different conferences. Obviously, Alabama head coach Nick Saban tested positive, then tested negative for 3 days straight. Ended up coaching the game against Georgia, which Alabama won. But it was like a little bit scary. He said it was extremely scary for him when he found out the news. I mean, it's not something that anyone's like, oh my god, I have it, yay. But and then also, I think I found out today that Purdue head coach Jeff Brom also just tested positive, and now their team and facilities in quarantine. So I mean, we're in week 8 of the college football season now, and this stuff is still happening. From what I've seen, as the national cases have continued to go in an upward trend, are we going to see more games postponed and more outbreaks happen, or is it just going to be in little pockets like it has been so far?
I think it's gonna keep happening, especially since we just keep adding more football to it. Um, it's definitely been an issue, and I do think it's interesting that the Alabama head coach, that he's getting to be there on the sideline. Yet, whenever other football players, they're just a close contact. Even if they test negative, they still have to be quarantined for 2 whole weeks. Even if they test negative and they didn't have any symptoms, they still have to be out for 2 weeks. But he was at what like 3 days and was positive. Um, that was really interesting news for me to hear. But I do think it's just going to keep getting worse. I'm honestly surprised that we made it this far. But I think like it was okay in the beginning, and now it's all kind of starting to hit the fan. And it's going to start to come down. Like for the SEC, I don't see how we're going to keep the championship date. I think it's like December 15th, because at least for Mizzou, we're going to need probably another like date, and they only put in one. So I think like there's going to keep being more changes to the schedule as we go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're looking at right now is we've kind of seen that what the SEC has been doing, it hasn't really been working all that well. I mean, with so many games getting canceled, and so you have to think: is there something that they're doing that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 kind of saw, and did they adjust their plans accordingly and change things up? But also, when they announced that they were coming back and they laid out all their plans, there weren't college football games being canceled, being canceled days before them being played out. And so I think we're about to see which conference is the best at planning. What is the best at kind of crisis management? Because this is something that you get hired to be the commissioner, and you're not expecting
this can be considered a crisis.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a crisis.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know, but the LSU Mizzou game, we didn't know that they were coming to Missouri. We found out Mizzou. We found out from the bus company that because they'd canceled their buses, so we didn't even find out from LSU or the SEC. And so I definitely don't think we're gonna take the victory on being the most.
That's an interesting point though, because that game wasn't moved because of COVID.
Yeah,
that game was moved because of a hurricane, so that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, but then for the band, for COVID, we're mostly finding it on Twitter. So all of us, we have our Twitter notifications on, and the other day in rehearsal, we were like, "Hey, now we have a game in 7 days." So
that's how it was when the Pac-12 was, everybody was assuming that they were going to come back. There was about a week or so, probably a little bit over a week, I think, from when they made a statement on Twitter that said, we're going to come out with a decision on whether or not we're going to come out and play again. And so we had to wait for that whole entire week. But I'm wondering, they had that contract also. I'm not sure what the Big Ten is doing, but they had a contract signed up with this company that does rapid testing. So they did that a long time before they announced that they would be coming back. But most of that deliberation, that whole entire week, I'm wondering what was the specifics. I'm really curious. I do have faith that the Pac-12 will do a good job. I think it'll be okay. We also have a 6-game season, so it's not as long.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what the Big Ten is doing.
Yeah, the Big Ten, I know we covered this a couple weeks ago, but just to recap, the Big Ten is basically, it's a 9-game season. The 9th week is the conference championship game. But everybody plays against their kind of equal rank from Big Ten East versus Big Ten West. So if you're number 1 playing number 1, that's the conference championship. If you're 2, you're playing number 2. So down all the way to 7v7. So that'll probably be Rutgers versus Northwestern. With, I don't know, maybe Maryland versus Illinois in the 6v6 match. But,
Woo!
but yeah, and it's starting this weekend for the next 9 weeks, so there's no time built in to delay games. There are no bye weeks, so if a game has to be canceled, it's just canceled flat out. I don't know what that's going to do in terms of records, because the way you kind of look at a team's record is you compare, and if this team has more wins than that team, this team's better. So if Ohio State goes 8-0, but then Penn State goes 8-1, and that one loss was Ohio State, obviously, Ohio State's going to be the winner. But what if Penn State's one loss is, I don't know, I don't know how the math would work out to where
it's gonna be confusing.
It's gonna be a very weird season with the numbers because of the lack of ability to kind of postpone games.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, especially with like the college football playoff. That's something I'm wondering about because you have you have teams in the Pac-12 that theoretically could any other year or this year could be part of the playoff discussion. You know, Oregon's been there fairly recently, UW's been there fairly recently, but how is that really fair, you know? If you have a team like Alabama who's been playing and then maybe you have a however many games they played an undefeated record versus a Washington team who has a 6-0 record, they don't have as much field time, but also they're not as maybe physically like tired from the season. So, you know, is it really fair? How are they going to do that? I really don't know.
Exactly. That's a really good point because then for the Pac-12 and Big Ten, it's going to kind of be the middle to end of the season.
Yeah.
But for like these conferences, the SEC, Big 12, ACC, they've been playing an entire season. They're tired. They're exhausted. Their bodies physically, you know.
It's a lot. It's
Yeah.
a lot. It's very taxing. Yeah, so it'll be it's going to be really really interesting to see how the just what's going to happen with COVID as these new conferences start to play. Will it be like what it was, what it has been, or will it not be like that? We will find out in due time. But I did kind of want to end off this the news segment kind of talking about football. And I mean, the biggest game of the weekend, arguably speaking, other than the fact that South Carolina did upset Auburn, was Georgia Alabama, which I know we talked about. It was kind of our featured game, and all of you guys were wrong, and I was right because Bama stomped them.
All right. I'm just going to say this. It was a really close game for the first half.
And
And
the second half, they
and
just went.
Bama caused so many injuries. There were so many. That game was riddled with injuries. To all the players, I'm sure you're not listening to this, but I hope you.
Hey, they
get
could
well
be.
soon.
Hey, give them hope. They could be listening
They
to
could
this.
be. Georgia, if any of your players are listening to this, specifically the ones that got injured during that game, I hope you're okay. I hope you get well soon. But
I'll make you
we
some
do not
brownies.
wish injury. Yeah, we do not wish injury on anyone, and Annabelle does make good brownies. I cannot 100% attest to them because I've never had them, but I'm assuming they're good because I trust your cooking.
Yeah, it was really upsetting. I really liked Georgia, and I was really hoping for them. I wasn't able to watch the game that day, but then I saw the score, and I was like, "Oh no, oh!" It's very sad for them.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a really good matchup coming in because Georgia had the really good defense, Alabama had the really good offense, so it was like the clash of the Titans, offense and defense, and boy, did Alabama come out in that second half firing.
Oh, that second half, Alabama it looked like a different game.
Whew.
Like, I mean, it looked like Georgia just got gassed, and they were just tired in that second half. Which
Probably
I mean,
a good
just
way of
goes to
describing
show-
it.
What'd you say?
I said that's probably a good way of describing it.
Yeah. It just goes to show how strong of a program Alabama really is. Like, I know I give them a lot. Well, we all make
Bama.
jokes with Bama as the punchline.
Roll Terps.
But like, it just goes to show how elite of a program they really are. That, and not to say that like Georgia's not elite. I mean, they were ranked number 3 nationally for a reason.
Nah, not elite. Garbage. Get rid
But
of
like,
them.
how elite they are, how much depth they have, and how well conditioned their players are, to where they can play at such an elite level for so long and just outlast Georgia. I mean, that's what happened. The game was not going in Alabama's favor during the first half at all. And then I don't know what was said in the locker room, but then they were like, wait, guys, the game started a half hour ago, like game time half hour ago. Why are we
Oh,
not
no.
Why are we not winning? Let's do the thing, okay? Let's get the ball in
Let's do
in the
the
big
thing.
rectangle on the side, okay?
But yeah, so with that, we're going to wrap up this week's news segment, and we are going to get into, because we just talked a little bit about Bama, it's a little bit of a teaser for what we're going to get into with our main segment this week, which is talking about legacy schools more in the terms of football. So those schools that you kind of think of that are like, these are the powerhouse schools in college football, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, if you're thinking FCS, the James Madisons, the North Dakota States of the world. And obviously they also have marching bands there, and some of them are really good. And we got to talk to a few members of some of those schools just to hear about their experiences with not only being in marching band, but also watching some of the best college football programs in the country. So we are going to go to that now, so stay tuned for that, and then after that we're going to go into our pick segment, so enjoy. All right, welcome back to our main segment for this third episode of College Band Radio. This week we kind of wanted to dive into something a little bit different, talking about legacy bands. And when we talk about legacy bands, that means, you know, not only the marching band itself, but also the football team that they are playing for at games. So we didn't want to just look at the FBS D1. We also wanted to take a look at some other legacy schools. And of course, where else would we go than the FCS with North Dakota State? I'm not involved in the FCS world, but we do have someone on our team who is involved in the FCS world and happens to be in the same conference as North Dakota State. So Hannah, why don't you take it away, kind of start this, and then we'll go into it.
All right. So, as Alex said, I'm also in an FCS school at UNI, so FCS gang has to stick together. So today we're going to be talking to Matthew Pash from the North Dakota State Gold Star Marching Band. And for those of you who don't know, North Dakota State has won, I believe, every national championship since 2011 except one. So, Matthew, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Matthew Pash. I'm a instrumental music education major here at North Dakota State University. I'm in my third year here in school and in the Gold Star Marching Band and the Bison Pep Band, and I play the mellophone.
Mellow Gang. I'm sure that Craig and Jason would both very much appreciate Mellow Gang.
Yeah, North Dakota State is definitely a really dominant school in our division of football. And then, so with that, what's it kind of like being in the Gold Star Marching Band? Is your game day experience like super hype? Obviously, you have like a ton of fans out there supporting the program every year because you're perennially a super good team.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's a fun time because it's marching band. But like, no matter where you're coming from at North Dakota State, it doesn't matter what major you are, what kind of stuff you're going through that day. You come to marching band, have a great time, you learn the music, you play the music, or if it wasn't this time, we'd be learning drill and practicing the drill. And then when it comes to game days, we're all like super into it. Fargo Dome's sold out like every time, so luckily we get to go in for free every week. And yeah, we get super into the game even if we're up by an absurd margin.
I was going to say, so for both of you guys, because you both play in dome stadiums,
Dome gang.
How is that like as a college football team playing in a dome stadium?
It gets loud, especially with the full dome. And then when we get to playing on the field, we have to deal with the generally like our sound gets it's a little bit longer, so we have to play a lot shorter so that it doesn't get really messy with the sound. And we have to deal with sound coming back at us, trying to like. You have to use your eyes a lot more to watch the drum majors.
And that's an interesting thing that a lot of people don't realize. Playing in a dome, I've never gotten to talk to other people who have gotten to play in a dome. So it's like you have to get so used to watching and not listening. Like if you're in the front half, we usually have to like, if you're going to listen back, it has to be drumline, but they're even a little bit delayed just with the echo.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know about you guys, but we practice in the dome usually year round, so we're pretty used to it. But do you guys practice outside, or do you usually stay in the dome?
We practice all the time outside. We occasionally get into the bubble that we get set up, and then very rarely we get to go into the Fargo Dome. We at least get to go in on game days.
Oh my goodness, we're
practice there.
spoiled then. I didn't realize until talking to other people, like we've had to do some outside rehearsals just because with the dome we have to let the air filter out. Yeah, I know. The horror of practicing outside, because we usually do everything inside.
I feel such pity.
Yeah, I know. The saddest thing you've ever heard is me having to practice outside like twice. Although Friday, it was like 40 degrees, so...
Ooh.
Although I'm sure it's worse in North Dakota, so I don't...
Yeah, we actually had snow this weekend.
Oh, I got snow
fun.
this morning, so I feel that was... I hated it. I hated every second of it.
That's not Yeah, by my reaction as someone who lives in New Jersey, which doesn't usually get snow in October, and went to school in Maryland, which rarely ever gets snow. Just the fact of hearing the word snow freaks me out to the high heavens. So
Imagine. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we get
Imagine,
snow
yeah.
always. 'Cause that's one of the best parts, even if you don't get to practice inside all the time. Like, game days, it's always sunny and 72.
Yeah.
So then, kind of along with that, is since you've been to the national championship, obviously several times, like, does that really affect your mindset during the season as a band and kind of with the team, where you're like, oh yeah, we have to keep pushing through, like we know we've got a long road ahead of us, or do you just kind of take it a game at a time? Because for a lot of people, if you're not following FCS football, we do like more like tournament style. So like once you get into playoffs, you have to play several games before you go to the championship.
Even better than I've been to a couple of national championships. I've been to about 30 Bison football games. We have lost a total of 0.
Oh my gosh.
My
Can't
entire time
relate.
I've been here, we've won. But yeah, obviously we're at least a tad bit arrogant when we come into games. But throughout the season, we do a thing where we just every time anybody mentions anything about going to Frisco or the playoffs, we have to knock on wood. Every time. So yeah, we obviously do a little bit of like we're a little bit more prepared than some other teams to last a little bit longer in the playoffs.
Yeah, and honestly, the arrogance is well deserved. Like,
Yeah.
with us being in the same conference, anytime we see NDSU on schedule, we're like, oh, that's gonna be an L. We're just gonna go ahead and take it.
So
But
I am
it-
curious. Is the expectation every year for you guys national championship because of the success of the program in recent years?
Yeah, definitely it's to go all the way. Honestly, like I've started like forgetting what the number at like 8 of 9 I think of the last national championships. I care more about we're at 38 in a row wins, which is 9 away from the overall NCAA record, held by Oklahoma.
So that's so cool. So what's kind of, you mentioned that you've gotten to go to obviously quite a few national championships during your time. What's the atmosphere like in Frisco when you're getting to do a national championship game?
It's just like any other time. It's fun. It's a little bit weird as well because it's like we were playing for a while and then we took like 2 weeks off and then we got to come back to the same football team. And then of course it's a little bit bittersweet because you have the last time that you get to see some of your seniors. We get down there after a day and a half drive. And then we get to spend like half a day in Frisco. So then the next day, we're just all super excited for a football game finally after 2 days of waiting. And a fun time. Like last year, it was a competitive game all the way through. Even through the fun that we had to deal with last year, it snowed down in Frisco. And there
The
was
audacity!
Damn it.
and we couldn't escape it. So we got there. There was slush all over the ground because it's Texas, so it all had to melt. It got into my shoes and into my socks.
No.
So the entire
That's
way
a
through
rough
the
time.
first half, my feet were just like frozen. A lot of people were just taking turns going to the bathroom just to warm up. And then we finally got down for halftime onto the field, and it was just like the sun is out finally. I couldn't like. It was so nice once we got. After that point, I barely could tell my feet were dying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gotta feel pretty incredible seeing your team
Yeah.
win a couple national championships.
I was gonna ask to put it into context because for those that follow the FBS more than the FCS, obviously the FCS it's they don't necessarily compete for bowl games. It's that tournament style thing that Hannah talked about leading up to the national championship. How would you describe just what it is, the build up leading up to it?
Well, obviously we come from the same like type of intensity where it's like it's a lot of like alumni and whatever that are the fans that are all there, and it's like the same energy that you see at other FBS schools, just a little bit less because we're at a smaller stadium. It definitely still feels very big because it's like it's the one game that we get to go to that's not in the Fargo Dome, and it's at a major stadium, for soccer at least, it's held at FC Dallas's stadium, if you don't know, which houses the National Soccer Hall of Fame. So it's fairly significant for MLS at least.
I think that's an interesting thing that a lot of FBS schools don't realize is that even though our schools are physically smaller, there's still that same intensity and passion about football, and our fans get just as into it as big schools, which I think is really cool because honestly, it's more, to me at least, I think it's a lot more personal because rather than there being a gazillion Alabama fans or whatever, it's like looking at the UNI faithful, and I know like NDSU too, where it's like, yeah, like these are our fans, these are our grads, we're here and we're so excited to cheer on the team, and like that's one thing I really love about our level of football. So that's...
And there's no shame in playing inside of an MLS stadium. The Chargers played at LA Galaxy Stadium. No shame. If an NFL team can play there, then an FCS team can play there, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I think another thing is our national championship game is actually considered a bowl game. It's
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because you can, every year I go through and make my bowl game picks and I see NDSU on that list every year and I'm like, all right,
Gotta do
Missouri
it.
Valley Pride. win one for the conference. So I guess kind of getting to the really what's on everybody's minds right now is obviously the FCS got moved to the spring. So what has your band kind of been doing this semester in terms of music and performing? And then do you know kind of what your spring plans are going to be?
Yeah, so to start off the season, we didn't have a band camp, which made everything just seem really slow. Like, we barely got to know everybody else that was in the band. There's like a lot of strangers to me still. We didn't get to learn any of the pregame and whatever that we normally do during band camp. So, and we're not marching at all. We're just playing. So that's a lot different. We did, however, manage to get on our schedule a football game this fall, which happened a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We played Central Arkansas, which the band barely got to do anything for. We got to do march over before the game, like we do every time. And then we played outside for the tailgaters, which I don't know how many there were, but I don't imagine there were that many because the only people that were allowed in were the family of the football players. But then afterwards, we were done with the football game, with anything that was happening at the Dome, at least. The band actually managed to get the concert hall, and we got to watch the football game just as the band.
Oh, that would be fun.
That was fun.
At least you all got to be together. So I know we kind of talked about this a little earlier before we started the formal interview, but have you guys done like any, aside from that, have you done like any performances? Like, are you doing like standstills or live streams or anything like that?
We did one performance under the name of our Sounds of the Gridiron, which we do every year. Just an indoor marching concert. Basically, it's just we played through school songs. We prepared a set of 3 tunes that were a little bit harder, and then we had did I say stand tunes? I don't know. We played all those, and then yesterday we were gonna have a performance, but that ended up getting canceled because snow, and it was cold out, but also because the pandemic is getting a lot worse here in Cass County.
Yeah. All right. Well, that kind of wraps up the questions I had.
Well, I did want to ask. Yeah, I did want to ask one more thing. So, because I forgot it, but I want to make sure that for the viewers and listeners of this, either of you, what are the plans, or what is the plan for the FCS? Because I know that not a lot of teams were playing in the fall, and the plan was to play in the spring. What is the plans for the spring, and will there be still will teams still be competing for a national championship in some sort of aspect with just like a condensed schedule?
Yeah, so I know that the MVFC, which is both of us, they released their schedule a couple weeks ago. So we know we are still going to have a full schedule of 8 games this in the spring, I think starting towards the end of February, mid-March. Yep. And we are, since the NCAA is in charge of our championship, unlike the FBS schools, and that got moved to the spring, we're all still going to be competing for the national championship. Frisco's still going to be the tentative host site. For a lot of teams, they were still like conferences were still allowed to make the individual choice to go ahead and play in the fall. But if you play in the fall, you don't get to play in the spring, and especially in our conference where there's several teams that have a chance of making a really deep run into the playoffs, like it just wasn't worth going ahead.
Yeah. That's about it. I don't know what else to add to that.
Yeah, so I guess thinking about it, how have you guys started to process the fact that there is going to be a season in the spring? Like how do you guys feel about that?
Go Cats, man. That's all I got to say.
It's going to be certainly different, like spring football, where it's cold at the beginning and then it gets warmer. Just seems really weird. But also, we're going to be doing the. We recently found out that we got our basketball schedule, at least an idea on when it was going to start in January. So that'll be happening around the same time. So that'll be interesting to see how the bands are divvied up if we have to, if there's a basketball and football game going on at the same time. There's a chance that our the basketball our conference tournament is going on at the same time that we have football games going on. So
oh my god,
yeah, we're gonna be we're in the same boat because for basketball we're in different conferences.
Yeah,
but same here, like we're gonna have both going at once, which is gonna be like I would rather have too much going on in terms of like
but what are you gonna choose from? Like you love pep band, Hannah. What are you gonna choose from? You're gonna be like torn apart.
I will clone myself.
Okay, that's.
I will. McLeod and the Dome are connected, so if I have to sprint through the tunnel over to a football game, I will do it. I'll leave the basketball game at halftime, go play pregame, and then go back.
So basically, 2021 will now welcome cloning into it because Jeff Bezos has enough money from Amazon that he will give you a grant in order to make a cloning machine
for the pep, man.
Just so that you can achieve being both at a pep band game and a football game at the same time.
I think that's going to be it'll be an interesting conundrum for a lot of schools in our level of football that you won't see in a lot of the FBS schools, but I think all of us are pretty excited. We're going to have a season. Especially, obviously, we won't have played. Although NDSU, you guys had your one game against Central Arkansas. We haven't played football literally in the year 2020, and we're not going to. So I think 2021, it's going to feel so good just having that back and having stuff to get really excited about, and hopefully pack the dome as much as you can pack a dome during a pandemic. So 6 feet apart, everybody wearing their masks, depending on how things go. But I'm so excited. I just can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, Matthew, is there any places that people can find you on social media, or any way to find the Bison Gold Star Marching Band on social media? Any links for the people that can check out what you guys do?
NDSU or GSMB NDSU on Twitter.
Okay.
And then our Facebook is Gold Star Marching Band, or the NDSU Gold Star Marching Band.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, people check out those links. Matthew, thanks so much for coming on. Hannah, I know you are going to be interviewing someone else from an FBS school. We won't tease who, but Hannah and Jason are going to be taking over the next interview. So again, thank you, Matthew, so much for coming on. And enjoy our next interview before we go into picks for this week.
Welcome back to our episode of CPR, and today, kind of continuing our theme of interviewing members from Legacy Band, we have Spencer here, who's a sousaphone from the University of Alabama. So Spencer, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Spencer. I'm a junior civil engineering major at the University of Alabama. I play the sousaphone. I guess some other things is that my voice does sound a little bit raspy because the day before I was actually at the Georgia game. So I kind of lost my voice about halfway through the game. So it might be a little bit tinny, but hopefully I can get through this.
It's happened to the best of us. So kind of along those same lines, what is it like being in the $1 Million Band, or what has your experience been like?
It's been a lot to take in at first. Sort of when I was coming in as a freshman, I came up from a band that was about 90 people. Mm-hmm. So sort of going up to 400 members in the band. It was a lot to take in. sort of like all these different sort of like rules that we kind of had to follow, where we kind of basically want to be like a more professional type of band, which means that sort of like everything, sort of like it means that we're always kind of like in uniform for everything. I would usually go into half uniform, sort of like in high school, but now coming into college, kind of like everything is kind of like down, like it's by the book basically. And I've had pretty much a really rewarding experience so far because of it.
Did you have like a specific rule that was really hard to adapt to?
Probably the hardest thing would have been probably I never memorized my music in high school. So pretty much up until this year with COVID, we would have to basically kind of get all the music memorized, and that meant that we had to do 20 or so songs that just had to be kind of like off your head. And once a drum major blows their whistle, then it just has to be it's just muscle memory by this point. But sort of learning it for the first time, it took a lot to basically just kind of sit down and just finger through the music to make sure that I had it down.
I was gonna say, yeah, I definitely remember that feeling when I was coming into the PMB. We memorized everything too, and just as a freshman, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose. But then it's like, as you get more like reps under your fingers, like, okay, I'm like kind of getting into the swing of this.
I was gonna ask, do you guys play all those songs like consistently?
There's some songs that we play more than others. I guess for example, there's this one song by Lil Wayne that came out in like 2009 called Right Above It. It's a wild tuba part. It's very easy to play it, I guess with bad tone quality. But sort of that's like a song that we might run through that maybe a couple times per game, maybe 3 times. I guess iconic for us, like we play Basket Case at the start of fourth quarter, and that's something that you need to have it down. That's just something that everyone, not only from the band but also from a spectator wise, that you'll recognize. So like it is like it's sort of overall like for the songs that we need to memorize, it's good to kind of know everything, but there are a few of them that we run through more often, so it becomes a little bit easier, I guess, to memorize, especially with like all the football games that we usually have.
So kind of along those same lines, obviously every year you guys have quite a few football games. What's kind of the atmosphere like at those high-profile bowl games and at national championships? Like, were there any really cool things that kind of surprised you as part of the process?
Actually, well, one of the things that kind of surprised me the most was sort of when we do traveling for the bowl games. Sort of usually it's done by bus, or or if it's really far, like when we went to the national championship a couple years ago, we actually flew out there. I knew we had time to sort of go around, maybe explore the area a little bit, but also one of these sort of unintended, I guess, more rewarding parts of sort of traveling for these games was actually meeting other members of other marching bands. Sort of in our bowl game in the Citrus Bowl last year versus Michigan, actually, that game was on New Year's Day. So the night before, actually, we met the Michigan Tubas. And I mean, it was really fun learning about sort of their experiences of what they do tradition-wise. But in terms of the actual games themselves, it's a very surreal experience, basically, to start being like in these big games, and basically hopefully seeing Alabama win, which I think we usually win. But even then, I'm just really happy to sort of be a part of basically a part of history, I guess, in the making. As a side note, I don't have to pay for tickets, so
Yeah,
this is really
love
this is probably the also one of the other benefits from marching band.
So when you do get to go to like the national championship, do you guys like as band members get like anything for it?
So when we do go to sort of the national championship, we got like a little swag bag when we came into the hotel. The big things were we got a white hat that sort of had the college football playoff branding on it, Bay Area on the side. And then also the other big thing we got was a laser engraved, I guess it goes on the doors. I forgot what they're called. It's just, when you put those things on like the rooms to say like do not disturb.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, like the
Yeah,
door tags.
yeah, the door tag. It was pretty much like a wooden version of that, but for the college football playoffs.
Oh,
Super dope.
Yeah, and I mean, great. Like we pretty much like we're at like the playoffs and stuff, and like those are probably the biggest sort of like swag things we got.
So you kind of mentioned, like, obviously you're at the game yesterday. What was it? What if your band, or what has the band been doing kind of with COVID procedures? Are you all split into different groups? Are you all able to be at the games? How does that kind of work for you guys this season?
So with COVID, pretty much it's kind of been kind of like it's been a work in the process basically throughout the entire summer and like spring and summer. When we decided to come back in the fall with the SEC when they pushed back the schedule, it meant that they canceled band camp for us. So we didn't show up until school normally started. But we ended up getting the final numbers about a couple weeks before the actual first game, and we were allowed out of our 400 members that are in the band, we have 96 people that go to each game. And we do pretty generic sort of COVID safety protocols, which means that we're wearing a mask while we're playing. Sort of everything is kind of disinfected. We're kind of using technology to help us with, we don't actually technically have our music memorized, especially for the new freshmen, since we have so little time together. So it means that we're using sort of different apps to help sort of like get our music and get attendance down, as well as sort of doing health checks to make sure that everyone is sort of safe in a safe place when we do our actual practices and games.
Nice. So, what is your experience kind of being in the Million Dollar Band, obviously, where the football team's pretty high profile? Like, do you feel like that adds more pressure ever, or do you guys kind of perform like just like, oh, we're just taking it one game at a time, or are you kind of working towards the idea of like, yes, we're definitely going to have a postseason in a very visible kind of spot, I guess?
So for me personally, I function sort of where I kind of take it a game at a time. I don't want to set necessarily too high expectations, sort of like for our football team, because I feel that no expectations are better than high expectations. So that way you're always happy what happens at the end of the season. But in terms of the actual band, I think we do set pretty high expectations, especially as a fan base for Alabama football. It's for us by this point, it is national championship or bust. But in terms of the actual band, I think that it's pretty business as usual on a game to game basis. When you do first join the band, it can be a little bit overwhelming, kind of feeling that sort of everyone is watching you, but you sort of learn to tune out sort of like all the background noise, and sort of going through pregame and your halftime shows. Basically, it's focused on trying to make it the best it can be. And basically usually in some pretty like cool environments.
I'm gonna ask something about the Million Dollar Band itself. Is there anything, I guess anything like a certain tradition or something that you guys do that like this is like the Million Dollar Band? Like this is only something that we do. Like this is Alabama marching band. Like nothing else. Like no one else in the country would ever do that.
Honestly, while I was thinking about that question, I kept on for some reason thinking about Tusk. Um, but I forgot you mentioned that pretty much it's sort of like something that's unique and only to your band. And I
You say
guess
you're not the only band that plays Tusk.
no, we are one of three bands that I know, three major bands that I know of. It would be us, University of Arkansas, and the
South
University of
South,
Southern Ca-
yeah,
Southern
not South
California.
Carolina. Oh God.
No. But yeah, no, well, they're the actual ones that recorded with Fleetwood Mac. So technically, I guess we took from them.
But do you guys do it better?
Ooh,
Hot take.
my own hot take. As much as I love Alabama, I think the original is still better. So I love the Southern Cal version of Tusk. So
All right.
yeah.
That settles it.
I think unless Jason has any other questions, I think we'll probably wrap it up. So thank you so much for coming on, Spencer. And then everybody, I'll encourage you to stick around as we get into our football picks for this weekend coming up next.
And welcome back to our Week 8 college football pick segment. The biggest thing about this is that the Big Ten is back, which means that we are going to have some Big Ten matchups to discuss. I think we should discuss all of the teams of which we are repping, so that would just be me, Jason, and Craig. So Jason
And Hannah.
Oh
It's
yeah,
true.
and Hannah. Sorry,
I have
we are
allegiance.
going to. I know, but we're going to get into that game a little bit later because that is way more prominent than the teams that we currently went to or go to.
T.
No offense. No offense to Michigan. No offense to you know what I mean. So quickly, let's go over that. So Craig, who is Rutgers playing this week?
Rutgers is not playing. Rutgers is beating Michigan State this week.
Okay, that's a hot take.
Oh, you heard it here.
You heard it here first.
folks.
9-0, boys.
Oh,
9-0. You know,
I
the
mean,
Big
honestly,
Ten is
20
actually
Rutgers
the
playing
big
Ohio State.
Rutgers. So, 9-0.
Jason, who's Purdue playing?
Purdue is playing Iowa at Purdue.
Ooh, and who do you? I mean, I know who you're gonna pick, but like, really.
I'm gonna take Purdue all the way.
All right. And Maryland is playing a night game, and they are playing 2 straight night games this year, which I don't know why, because they should never be in the national spotlight. They are playing Northwestern, and Northwestern isn't good, but neither is Maryland. So I'm gonna say Northwestern wins. I'm sorry, Maryland.
Wow! In a
Look at
Maryland
all the Maryland
shirt.
stuff that he has on.
Mike,
and the
Mike.
flag.
No,
and
this
the
is a
hat.
Maryland basketball shirt. This is this is a Maryland football hat, but this is a Maryland basketball thing. So repping the basketball team.
Wow.
No,
The
I
lack
mean,
of
Allegiance is more
loyalty.
important than your record.
It's true.
All right, Hannah, who you got for your team?
no, we're gonna get into that because that's a bigger match.
She's got her shirt on.
Yeah,
she's
but
got
we
it.
get
All right.
I mean, she's
so,
repping more than Craig is
okay,
right now.
okay, well then
Hey,
let's
it's
start
red
out with
and
that. Let's
black.
start
It's
out with
red and
that.
black.
No, let's start
As-
out with that game. Since this is the game that the college band radio people selected the most on Twitter. Michigan, number 18 Michigan at number 21 Minnesota. College game day is going to be there. It's going to be on ABC 7:30 on Saturday. Hannah, since you're the one who's currently wearing the Michigan shirt, I can't imagine who you're going to pick, but who are you going with?
I'm going with Michigan. Go blue. Gotta do my little M. I am super loyal to Michigan. They are my FBS team. I think that it's going to be a tough game since they're at Minnesota on the road at night. But I think not having fans is really going to be a deciding factor there. And the fact that the stadium will be empty, I think, is going to swing the game in our favor. So, go blue.
Jason.
I'm gonna go with Minnesota. Sorry, Hannah. I love you,
Oh,
Michigan
man.
marching band, but I think they've been hyping up Minnesota a lot, and I think Minnesota's actually gonna live up to the hype.
Ooh. Savannah.
But I'm picking Michigan. I just have a gut feeling.
I like that. Gut feelings work. Annabelle, who do you have?
I'm going with Michigan because I love the state of Michigan and also the big M, wrong way. You know, we kind of got the same M, so behind me, I got to root
Similar
for them.
M's. Yo, that's a good take. Craig.
M doesn't mean W.
I'm gonna say Michigan because Minnesota, I feel like, is always overrated. Just a hot take. Sorry,
Minnesota
Minnesota.
beat Auburn last year.
Yeah, but I feel like every
Look.
time Minnesota and Rutgers play, it's always a close game. At least the one,
Rutgers is,
at least
the
the
sleeper
one
team of
game
the
I can remember
Ten.
between
Minnesota
Minnesota and
beat Penn
Rutgers.
State
It was a
last
very
year, though.
close game.
Minnesota beat Penn State last year.
Yeah, I
though.
know, but the
All right, Alex,
2017 game
come
that
on.
I'm thinking of
I'm
is-
going with Minnesota. I think Minnesota's got a good team. I think that, and John Harbaugh, man, those khakis choke all the time. Never trust John Harbaugh. Never.
Wait,
I'm
Jim?
sorry.
Jim
Whatever.
Harbaugh, not John.
Jim- always
I mean,
trust
I
John
get it.
Harbaugh with the Ravens.
I get that they're identical in every single way.
Jim,
except for, like, the
Jim,
physical
Except for their name.
Jim is forgettable. Let's go over to the. So we're gonna go back to the Big Ten, but we got to go over all the ranked matchups this week. Let's go over to the ACC now. We have number 23 NC State at number 14 UNC that just came off of a pretty bad loss at Florida State. Jason, and who do you have in this matchup? Do you have the Wolfpack or do you have the Tar Heels?
I'm gonna go with UNC.
Woo!
They were a bit disappointing the most recent week against Florida State, but they're gonna come off a pretty disappointing loss, right? Yeah, they lost. They want to prove something. They want to prove
Nice.
that they're actually there. I think they're gonna get there. I think they do have the capabilities to be really good. They just gotta show it. So I'm gonna go with the Tar Heels.
Ooh, Savannah.
I'm gonna pick NC State just on a limb. I don't know. I think that they can come from behind and win. I think NC might not bring it home this week.
All right. Annabelle.
I don't know. What color is the other school?
NC State's red and Carolina's
Brown.
blue.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the blue school then. North Carolina.
UNC.
Tar Heels.
Tar Heels. Craig.
I'm gonna go with the Tar Heels. I'm just gonna go on a limb
Ooh,
with it.
3 Tar Heels so far.
I don't know.
No, 4 Tar Heels, right?
I think so, right?
It's all of us versus Savannah and her gut feelings.
Oh,
That's
no,
all it is.
Savannah.
That's all
I'm
it
gonna
is.
switch. I'm gonna go to NC State. We're
Oh,
going to
2
NC
and
State.
2 now. 2 and 2.
You
stuff.
probably will regret that.
It's okay. I have a history of not picking well, so I'll take one for the team. Everyone else will win. We'll go
Hannah.
down.
I'm gonna go with the Tar Heels. I think last week's gonna give them kind of a chip on their shoulders, like they were embarrassed and they want to use that. So I'm going to Tar Heels.
Yeah, I'm also going with UNC. Love me some Mac Brown. Always love me some Mac Brown. Let's go over to the Big 12 now, because the Big 12 is still a relevant conference, people. We are going to go with Hannah's second favorite FBS school. Number 17, Iowa State. At number 6, Oklahoma State. Both teams coming off bye weeks. Savannah, who do you have in this matchup?
Iowa State. Go Cyclones.
Okay, I like it. Annabelle,
Iowa State.
go Clones, go Clones. Craig,
Iowa State.
oh my God, man, Iowa State.
No, but
Man.
Iowa State's gonna lose now. I mean, I don't
Oh,
pick the
no.
winners.
The Craig curse.
My record is not very good.
Hannah, I can't imagine who you're gonna pick.
I am, of course, gonna go with Iowa State. I should have done like a quick costume change, so I had my Iowa State shirt on. I'm a big Iowa State fan for as far as FBS programs go in our state. So go Clones, go State.
Jason,
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Iowa State because go Clones, but also they don't like Iowa.
That's
Iowa's
true.
playing Purdue.
Iowa
So
State.
that would be
hates
2
Iowa.
losses for Iowa.
Ooh.
That's true.
My heart says Iowa State, but I want to make this interesting, and I'm gonna go with Oklahoma State as a dissenting opinion, just like I did with Bama, because Oklahoma State, like, this
See
is the
yourself
game
out.
that this is the game that they prove if they're for real or not. So if they're for real, then they win. If they're not for real, then they lose, and then they bow out of the college football playoff conversation. So this, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and let's see what happens with it. Also,
Shout out to Kappa Kappa Psi though, coming from Oklahoma State, right?
Yeah, the Alpha
Yeah.
chapter.
Also, I think Gus Johnson's on the call for this game, so shout out Gus Johnson for just randomly just saying words after the Oklahoma Texas game because he was just so dumbfounded by what happened.
Sports.
But college football, Fox Sports, Texas, Sooners.
Oklahoma.
Such
Red River.
quality analysis.
He's so-
such
No,
great
but he's
analysis.
so funny that it's like it's okay because it's Gus Johnson. Like
I mean,
I can't
there's-
be angry at him.
No, it's.
All right, and then the other ranked matchup before we go back into some more Big Ten games, we have, I'm sure, the matchup that I'm actually really excited about, other than the Michigan-Minnesota game. We have, in the American Athletic Conference, we have number 9 Cincinnati at number 16 SMU. Annabelle, who do you have in this matchup?
I'm gonna go for the latter for SMU.
Woo, Mustangs. Craig.
I'm gonna go with Cincinnati. I think they're pretty solid.
He
I
likes
like
the
'em.
black field.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an eyesore, but no, I think
No,
I
that's
think
cool.
they're solid. I mean, they're number 9 for a reason, supposedly.
They could be this year's UCF. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe.
Hannah.
I think I'm gonna go with Cincinnati.
Okay, I like that. I like it. Any reason or just gut feeling?
Nah, I just vibe with it.
Okay. Jason.
I went with Cincy. I was gonna go with Cincy against Tulsa, and I'm gonna go with them this time against SMU.
Okay. Savannah.
I'm gonna pick SMU. I didn't pick them against Memphis, but they looked really good, so I think that they can do a lot of good stuff this week.
I'm also going to go with SMU because I love me some Shane Buechele. But yeah, so we will go on, talk a little bit more about some matchups in the Big Ten. We will go to, I think, the matchup that is comical, but also it could be interesting. We have Nebraska at number 5 Ohio State. Of course, Nebraska is the school that their students tried to, I think, sue the Big Ten or sue the NCAA to try to play football this year. And they got their wish. And they also got number 5 Ohio State to start off the season.
You guys want to play? Alrighty, here you go.
It's the resurgence of play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
2020 said, "Here, have this."
All right.
Craig, who do you have this matchup?
Who in their right mind would pick Nebraska in that matchup
The way that
if you were not
started
born and
that
raised
out.
in the state of Nebraska? Like,
You
I
were
get
like,
it. You think you're great, but I'm sorry. It's not the 90s anymore. You're not the 95 team, the 94, 95, I don't know.
No, it was
the
like-
national
it was like
championship
You're not the
team of
you're not the
yesteryear.
2018 Purdue Boilermakers.
It's a new
49-20
time.
Ohio State.
You're not gonna beat Ohio State. Everyone's gonna get injured on that in that game. In the Big Ten, like across the board, everyone's gonna. It's just gonna like what it was when. No, just like what happened when the
Craig's like,
NFL came back,
everyone's gonna
when
die.
college football came back, like in general, when like these leagues started up again without having enough offseason. I'm sure that the Big Ten got a little more offseason than the other leagues, but I don't think that's going to stop them. And so having a quickly depleted roster against a roster that just has significantly more
everyone's
depth,
getting hurt.
Ohio State's going to take the win
Oh
easily,
God.
like taking candy from a baby.
Hannah, after that amazing rant from Craig, how
honestly,
can you follow it up?
This is a struggle for me because as a Michigan fan, I just hate Ohio State. But as,
Understandably
as
so.
an Iowa resident, I just hate Nebraska. But
You could always root for a tie, which will never happen, but it could.
honestly, like I'm with Craig on all the following points. I gotta go with Ohio State.
Jason.
Sorry, Nebraska. I just can't see them pulling a win against Ohio State.
Yes.
And Justin Fields and an Ohio State team that really wants to show what they're made of so they can make it to the playoffs. I will say, though, I was impressed with, I think his name is Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, he's our quarterback.
When he came to Purdue, I was impressed, so I really hope he does have a good season.
Savannah.
I think my pick this week is not
Go with your gut,
Nebraska.
Savannah.
Wait, did she say not Nebraska?
Dang.
She doesn't want to say that she's picking Ohio State.
See,
but
that's what I need to
she's-
say. Is I'm simply.
she's picking Nebraska to lose, not Ohio
I am,
State to win.
not
I'm
Nebraska.
simply not picking. I'm simply not
I'm
picking
sim-
Nebraska. That's all
Yeah.
I'll say.
Okay. I respect Annabelle.
I'm definitely gonna go with Ohio State, but shout out to Nebraska because that was the best pet band trip I went on. So for volleyball,
Much agreed. The Nebraska band, huge shout out to you guys. I love
you guys
Nebraska.
have cute shirts.
I mean, clearly, national champion head coach Scott Frost hasn't been the same since he left UCF, and they won their national championship. And I'm expecting them to get absolutely clobbered. Like, I'm gonna say like it's gonna be like a 30-point, at least a 30-point loss.
Like, yeah, I'm
It's
gonna
not gonna
say
be close.
I'm gonna say set the scene similar to
Ohio
Clemson
State
versus
might put
Georgia
up a
Tech.
no, I don't think it's
Oh,
gonna be like
yeah.
that. But I think
I
they
think
might put up
Nebraska
a
will
50.
do better than that.
Yeah, no, I think they're gonna. I think Ohio State's gonna put up a 50 burger.
Listen,
That's just
I
personal
picked
speaking.
Ohio State or not Nebraska, but
God,
I'm like, if Nebraska
it.
pulls it out, I'm gonna be like, good for you. I'll be happy.
Because she,
That's
I'll
I
take
love
the L
that
for that
she
one.
said she said not Nebraska, so like technically she never actually.
What
said,
other Big Ten games we got?
So the other interesting Big Ten games that we can go over are, I guess there's two more. Oh, and we also have to mention Mizzou at the end of this, so we will. But let's first start off with number 8 Penn State at Indiana, who I know Jason dislikes, but
IU sucks. Penn State's gonna win. Total blowout. Not even close.
okay, so we're gonna start off with Jason on this one.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go with Penn State. Actually, I don't even care who IU plays. IU's always gonna lose, and they should always lose.
Wow.
IU
With one
sucks.
caveat.
Oh yeah, we did lose last year to IU.
Oh,
but we don't need to worry
I
about
was
that.
I was talking about this one.
Rutgers beat IU.
Well, we did when I was in Bloomington my freshman year, but I don't think we've beaten them since.
Hey, freshman
No.
year. Freshman year
IU
is
sucks,
basically this
except
year.
for when
The
they
point
play
is
Rutgers.
Penn State's number one. Penn State's also a great team. Penn
Yeah,
State's
Penn
gonna
Sta-
beat IU.
Yeah,
Alright.
I completely agree. I mean,
Okay, so we have 2 people for Penn State now. Savannah, who do you have?
I'm gonna pick Penn State. I think their mascot is so ugly, but I think
Oh,
they're
it's
gonna
really
win.
bad.
Dang.
Annabelle. So
I am gonna go with Penn State though.
okay.
Good.
Hannah.
Hannah,
No,
no,
okay,
Stop.
no, I wasn't gonna
Stop,
say.
Hannah.
I do not know a single thing about Indiana. I know absolutely nothing
10
about
All
them.
you need to
Indiana.
know is that
That's
IU
why-
sucks.
10 Windiana.
That is why I am choosing Penn State.
Okay.
Well, I do want to. I'm sorry, I can't say Penn State's gonna win in anything. Like I can't do that to myself. I don't care about Indiana. They were almost 10 Windiana last year. Let that be known. They almost had double-digit wins. They were
Yeah, it's
close.
the most wins they've had in like what 80 years.
Okay, well, like that's a building off point.
I mean, I
No,
also hate
no.
Penn State.
Just kidding.
Like,
I love you, marching
Okay,
100.
okay,
IU sucks, though.
I'm just gonna go with Penn State because like
yeah, like
I mean, like honestly speaking, I don't want to get my pick wrong if like I pick Indiana and then they get blown out. So like I just want to get it for like the leaderboard.
Just do it.
Just
I
wanna,
Just
love
like,
do
stay
it.
at the
that
top.
Alex is like
I bel-
emotionally invested in winning this, and I'm
Oh,
just
I'm
picking
so mu-
whatever my heart
Just
tells
believe
pick
we have
IU.
one
Just
more
do it.
left.
So yeah. So we do have one more left, and that is Illinois at number 14, Wisconsin. So because Jason passionately went first for our previous matchup, we are going to start with Hannah on this one. Hannah, who do you have between the Fighting Alini and the Wisconsin Badger Boys?
I'm gonna go with Wisconsin.
Okay. Any reason or just that's it?
I think
because Wisconsin.
I had to play on Wisconsin for something in high school, and I'm not sure why, but it slapped. So Wisconsin.
Shout out to Wisconsin for making music that slaps. Jason. Oh god, that kind of messed up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Wisconsin number one because I believe they lost at Illinois last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So
they
that-
did.
so they're
Yeah,
gonna
that
come
was
back with
that
a
was the game-winning
vengeance.
field goal, right?
Yeah, they're gonna come
Yeah.
back with a vengeance. And also, fun fact for you, Hannah.
Oh.
On Wisconsin was actually a Minnesota song, or I believe it was supposed to be a Minnesota song, but then some dudes from Wisconsin were like, "Hey, bring that here." So
Plagiarism.
that's why the Minnesota song is the Minnesota Rouser, and Wisconsin's on Wisconsin. Because if you notice, they go like on Wisconsin, but if you just change it to Minnesota, it works.
Wait. Oh wow, that's.
And if I'm
tea.
wrong, please, everyone from Wisconsin and Minnesota, it was all Annabelle's fault. She told me it first.
Ooh.
No.
Okay, so we're already
My
calling
fun
people
facts
out.
are always correct.
So we are-
Hold
Yeah,
up,
hopefully they
that's,
are.
That's deep. My high school fight song was Minnesota Rouser, so now I will contemplate that every time I hear those songs.
So
The more
so,
you know.
So wait, so Jason just went. So Savannah, who do you have?
I'm picking Wisconsin. Russell Wilson went there. My guy. Also,
is true.
they're
Oh, I love
also
him.
UW, so go Badgers.
That's right.
Annabelle.
Well, they're UW, not UW.
Close enough.
Definitely Wisconsin, but even more so because of Russell Wilson.
I have him on my fantasy team. He's doing really well this year.
Yes.
Shout
Alright.
out to Russell. Shout out to Sierra, dude.
Shout out to them. Just
She's the one who's wearing the pants in the relationship. I'm gonna tell you that for a fact.
I think they're both just
They're
perfect
both just
people.
vibing.
There's not a single flaw.
Just serotonin is just oozing out of their relationship. Craig.
I think that
Say
Illinois
it.
is going to surprise people this year one way or the other. Either they're going to be really good or like extra bad. Like usually they're not good.
Classic.
But I
Illinois.
think they're going to be
Boy
either really good this
sniffing.
year or really, really bad this year.
Okay.
And I flipped a coin. I'm going to decide that they're going to be really good this year.
Yeah.
And so I am going to
Upset.
be the contrarian and pick Illinois this week.
Upset. I like it. Also, they have Lovie Smith, and Lovie Smith has really
Oh, yeah.
invigorated a
He-
lot into the program.
He has stepped up the program a lot in the last couple of years. He's just what he's done.
He took
to
the
program
Bears to a Super Bowl. He's a good coach.
Yeah, he's
Alex, who you
Yeah.
got?
Yeah, that's a oh god. Sports. I'm gonna turn it to Gus Johnson for this part. I guess I'll go with Wisconsin because of the fact that they got basically walked off by Illinois at Illinois, and the fact that they're at home, regardless of the fact that there's no fans. I think it's gonna play into their favor. But to finish this off, I do want to quickly mention. So, Annabelle, what is going on with Mizzou right now? Because they're kind of in a whirlwind of stuff with the SEC.
That is a great question, and I wish I would know other than checking Twitter. So once again, our game got fumbled. So on the 17th, we were meant to be playing Vanderbilt, but that was postponed to December 12th because of Corona. This upcoming Saturday, we were meant to be in Florida, playing Florida, but they also got Corona. So now that Florida game has been pushed back to Halloween, and then we are now playing Kentucky this upcoming Saturday instead. So they just flipped our games.
Okay, and we will be rooting for Mizzou always because shout
I
out
love
Mizzou.
We need it. We need it.
I love that every time we do picks, like when it's for each other's schools, we're always like, oh, I don't know, but whenever it's Mizzou, we're all just like, yeah, Mizzou.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for Maryland, it's always gonna
Well,
be like, oh, how much
see-
are they gonna lose by?
See, and we have some
Sorry,
conflict
Maryland.
between myself, Alex, and Jason because we're all Big Ten people.
Oh my God,
So
when Maryland
so
plays
we all
Rutgers,
want each other to lose, but we don't have any other SEC people. So you know what? Sure, we'll root for Mizzou. Sure, we'll root for UW. Sure, we'll root for FCS when they eventually become
but
a
not
thing in
for
the spring.
Maryland. Definitely not for Maryland. But I think after all of this chaos that we endured in this segment, I think this is the perfect time to wrap this up. So, first off, Hannah, where can people find this beautiful podcast that we record so well and get out to the people?
Thank you so much for asking, Alex. I'm so excited to share that information. You can find us on Instagram at College Band Radio. You can find us on YouTube at College Band Radio. And you can find us on Twitter at College Band RDO because, as you may remember, radio is one letter too long for their requirements.
Yeah, it's really annoying. Twitter does not like College Band Radio. Confirmed. We will be back next week with episode 4. From all of us, stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask, and we'll talk to you guys next week.